confirming member access. As a preliminary matter, this is the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, Chairman Andy Lowell, to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. I will do roll call at the end of this introduction to the remote meeting. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. For Zoom meetings, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials, all supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of the members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment on to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Members of the board, I'll call your name as for a roll call attendance. I see Mr. Brace.
Aye.
Mr. Sadowski.
Here.
Mr. Bossy.
Present.
Ms. Andrews.
Here.
And for staff, I see Leah Hill.
Here.
And I see Sheila.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, March 16th. Do we have approval of tonight's agenda, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. This is Ginger.
Thank you.
Dave Bossy, you'll second.
Motion made by Ginger Andrews, seconded by Dave Bossy. All in favor, Mr. Sadowski,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Lowell votes aye. Approval of minutes, draft minutes, March 2nd, 2021.
I did not finish them. In fact, I didn't even start them because I am buried in doing taxes and getting my own taxes together and a whole bunch of things that have to do with my business, and I just plumb didn't get to them. So
Enough said, doing taxes is a good excuse for me. There's just plenty of time involved in that. Thank you, Mr. Brace. We'll continue that for our next meeting. Under the chairman's report, if everybody has this in front of them, please note meetings that are coming up or forums to attend, all water quality topics. March 18th, Clean Water Topics on Tap webinar. March 31st is the Zosteropalooza, and April 15th is Nantucket Waterkeeper Informational Forum. Marine Department report, please, Sheila.
Okay,
hey, Sheila.
yes,
So when you get to the regulations, I have them queued up if you want me to screen share them, if that makes it easier for you.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna go through and then, yeah, if you could do that, that would be great.
Just let me
Um,
know which one you want me to put up and I'll put it up.
Okay, so right now we are in the middle of hiring lifeguards. We're treating this summer like we treated last summer, so we're gonna have some extra guards. We'll be doing extra patrols on ATVs on the North Shore, between Eel Point and 40th. Just because we feel like the beaches are probably gonna be crowded again this year. We are in the process of finding, so community sailing is where we housed our guards last year. And they're gonna have their programs going full bore this year. So we're in the process of trying to secure some extra housing. We have had a huge turnout, which was great. We had we had like 91 applicants for the program, which is fantastic. And hopefully this year we're going to be able to do the junior lifeguard program again. I've been talking with some other communities, and it looks like if things keep going the way they're going with the pandemic, then we should be able to do that. So that pretty much covers that. Beaches, we're looking at the beach access signs. We're reevaluating how we have those done, seeing if we might want to change them up just slightly to specify an area and then give a number, because sometimes off the top of people's heads, if you're not using it all the time, trying to remember where the numbers are. Right now, they're currently numbered from, Mattakit is number 1. So we started from west to east, then we go down and across the North Shore, back down to Eel Point, and that's where the final one is. So there is some discussion. We're working on dispatch with that to see what's going to be easiest for the first responders, meaning the lifeguards are pretty good, but like getting the ambulance and police officers, if we need police support, whatever, we just want to make sure that everybody's talking the exact same thing. We did have a couple incidents last year where there was a little bit of confusion, where we needed an ambulance. Fortunately, it wasn't for a serious event, but if there is a serious event, we want to make sure that they're able to get right where they're going. We do have latitudes and longitudes for all of them in case we need a Coast Guard helicopter to land on any one of the beaches if it was significant enough. But we'll continue to work on that, and I'll keep you posted. The next couple weeks, we're just fixing up the houses that we know that we are going to be in, doing getting the places ready for lifeguards. And again, I think we're only going to be able to put one person per room, which is why we're looking for additional type housing. So the plan is to put the dinghy docks in the first week of April, and then we're going to follow it up with the floating docks. On floating docks, we're going to be able to do most of the work. We're going to be able to do all the repairs ourselves. The installation, we're going to hire Nantucket Moorings to give us a hand with that. We do have to get a couple piles and a couple 12 by 12s and just other things that got damaged over the winter, re-driven. And to save money, we're trying to get Mohawk that's overdoing the boat base, and I'm trying to piggyback off of them so that we can save money and not have to have a fee, a mobilization fee, which can be up to like 50 grand. So and they're really good, and they've agreed to try to help us the best they can and give us a very reasonable deal. As far as, I don't know if everybody got the email or if anybody's had a chance to look at it, but there was something sent out by town administration about some changes to some regulations. I did get an email or a text asking if we could maybe hold off until a couple more of your members are on board before you review them. Which that's gonna be your guys' call. I have everything in front of me. I can tell you what the major changes are, and I can tell you what's driving it to go kind of quickly is over on Monomoy, where we have a deal with Mr. Lou Gershner right off of Berkeley Avenue. And then the land bank has a deal over at Cathcart where there's some dinghy racks over there. Mr. Gershner had a deal with the town that any dinghy that was not stored in the rack, it was harbor master's office job, crew members' jobs to move them and put them up into the rack. Well, the guy on the other side of the ramp that goes down there at Berkeley Avenue, they bought the house. They don't want anything in front of their house either. And so they've written letters and they've spoken with Libby and they've spoken with me, and they just don't want dinghies there that are not for permitted mooring holders. So the resolution that we came up with was, I'll get a printout of everybody that has a legal mooring in those areas. We'll provide them with a sticker, have them put the sticker on the dinghy. And those that are, not permitted will remove. I know one of their big things is they don't like people coming down to the racks and loading like 6 or 7 kayaks up on top of the racks. And especially if they're just using them as a paddle sport. Their suggestion is the people always used to carry them down there before and then take them home at the end of the day when they were done. But, we could maybe come up with another resolution to build some kayak racks in another area, maybe down at Kayak Beach at the end of Francis Street, and all that type of stuff. So that's the big one that we're just trying to get resolved because those people are going to start coming back soon. And then the other regulations are just some modifications to the slip lottery, and I'm just cleaning up some definitions and stuff. But I did speak with Erica. They are not on an agenda for the select board, and they have not been advertised. They haven't been advertised yet. So that's at your guys' pleasure.
So Sheila, excuse me.
Mhm.
Since the selectmen have to advertise 3 weeks in advance of holding a public hearing, we may be okay anyway. I mean, if 3 weeks would be April 7th for them to have a hearing, and our next meeting is April 6th. So we'd have a meeting between now and whenever at the earliest that they could have a meeting. So did the select board give any indication of when they would do that or when they would like to do it?
No, nope. I just know that, the deputy had said that we just wanted to try to get them through as soon as possible. But as you said, and as Erica pointed out, they haven't been advertised yet.
Okay.
So like you said, I don't know that they would get in as quick as April 7th, to be quite honest, but I don't know. I don't know their schedule or what they have on their agenda. You know what I mean? I don't know that.
Hey, Sheila,
Yes.
this is Tom. This is a very personal question because I keep kayaks and a dinghy at Cathcart. I'm
Yes.
assuming Cathcart isn't a huge problem for you guys. I know it's included in the reg, but there's a lot of space off of the racks that is used there because there's just not enough space there for, and actually all the kayaks that end up down there. Every year I put my dinghy on the top in April, and in June, when I go out on my boat one day, I find out that I come back and someone put kayaks there, and I either put my boat under or next to the rack because I lost my spot because someone just takes it. But is this mainly the other part of Monomoy, or are you gonna enforce this as heavily in Cathcart as you are over by the other side of Monomoy?
The land bank has asked that we do both Cathcart and Berkeley Avenue, all of Monomoy, because they formed an association called the Monomoy Association, and they extend down as far as Cathcart, down to almost
Yeah.
by the shipyard.
Yeah, because there's clearly not enough rack space at Cathcart. I mean, but I guess it does say or designated dinghy storage area. So there is some ground storage over there next to the racks within the land bank property, not over on private property. I know
Yeah,
they
I
don't want
think-
anything on the private property.
Right, and that's where we're running into trouble, and I think what they're trying to do is not have any kayak or dinghy that isn't related to a specific mooring.
You
be
may
left
have
there.
you may have a kickback on that. You may have a kickback on that after the fact, because I don't think many people will notice. But a lot of people leave their kayaks there now, and a kayak may seem easy, but 2 kayaks you got to pull on a trailer, and so getting 2 kayaks over to the beach is either a trailer or 2 cars. So, and that's just a 10-foot kayak. So just be aware that there will be lots of complaints after the fact from kayak owners who won't notice this coming their way.
Yes, sir, understood, and that's
Yeah.
why maybe, as part of a discussion is maybe we put the kayaks someplace else, as I said, maybe down by Kayak Beach. Because I would say that there's as much parking down there as there is at Cathcart
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Berkeley Ave. And then the other one would be, maybe on Town Pier, right out in front of our Town Pier, we have a dinghy rack. We could maybe add one on the other side of our property. I am working with the land bank to try to find alternative places. And now it's gonna
Yeah.
just depend on what the select board goes with, whether they go with it has to be a permitted mooring or whatever.
yeah. That's okay. I'm just, it's within my world. So I'm just commenting that, letting you know what we got over at Cathcart. And, it'd be great if we find a good place for people to go that is less crowded, because it is a beach down there too. And, all the extra boats does make it less pleasant for the people who are mostly locals who use it as a beach on weekends.
I agree. And because there was times over the summer that when we do a beach count at where we have lifeguards, but we ended up having a lot of people on the beaches over there. And with the pandemic, I think paddle sports have picked up significantly because it was a way to social distance. So you have the stand-up paddle boards as well as having the kayaks.
Yeah. And the kayak, and they're not as easy to move as a lot of people think. I mean, you know that, Peter. They're kind of big.
Well, Mr. Sadlowski, through you, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brace.
maybe I'm in the minority here. I own 2 kayaks, and I will not leave my kayak somewhere that isn't on my property and just trust that the tide, the storm, and the well-meaning general public won't molest or steal it. I never understood leaving your kayak there so that you're going to go kayaking someday. Maybe, you know, I get it. If your kayak is your dinghy and you use that to get to your boat, I get that. And therefore I would have a lock and lock my kayak to the rack. But I wouldn't, you know, one kayak costs $2,500, the other cost almost $2,000. And so I'm not going to leave it there. So
Yeah,
Oh.
my kayaks aren't that precious, Peter, and all the kayaks are pretty much chained somehow to the rack. So, but I would say there probably were 20 or more kayaks at Cathcart all summer.
I would say that we've been lucky up to this point that the property owners along Monway haven't complained before that. And that, you know, I mean, you know, Tom, you go to anywhere there's a dinghy rack and they're all over the place.
Yeah,
So they hate the property owners have every right to complain. So
Well,
well, they're not on private property at Cathcart.
right.
Like everything else on the island, with the progress we've seen, I personally am not a kayaker. I don't have need for a dinghy anywhere, but at those beaches, I noticed there's a lot in Monomoy right now, and obviously they've been left there all winter. Is everybody on the island entitled to have a spot for their kayak or dinghy? I think at some point there's a limitation, or it's going to be looking ugly. But Sheila, you've got a lot you're paying attention to. It's amazing how much time you can spend on dinghies and kayaks. Your thoughts and coordination into the beach recovery zones. Just learning now that you have GPS locations for those in case somebody has to be flown out. That's remarkable. And it sounds like that's another item that you have had to focus a lot of time and attention on. So thank you for sharing those items with us. Did you have more to your report?
No, I just was gonna ask, so is it the pleasure of the board to wait till the next meeting till you guys can review these to discuss them?
Of course, in respect to Mr. Franzuto, he already got in touch with me asking if we could have till the next meeting to review this and have discussion on it at the next meeting. So, and our next meeting is 3 weeks away. So certainly, and whatever the submission time is what it is with the select board. Just knowing that we have plenty of time to review it, plenty of time to discuss it is good in my book. So select board meets every week, so I'm sure, you know, once it's refined, if it needs to be, it'll get submitted. So Sheila, lifeguard housing, just for the public's sake or anybody out there who may hear of available housing, what's the normal length of stay that you're looking for lifeguards, and also how many bedrooms are you possibly in need of?
That's a good question because I haven't finalized my count yet. But I'm hiring as many locals as apply, clearly. And the stay though is they start beach week. I believe the head guards start like the second week of June, and then we keep them through Labor Day.
Okay. So roughly June 14th to Labor Day,
Yes.
but usually college students have to cut out around August 28th or so.
Yeah, if we could keep them that long.
Yeah. Does the town subsidize? Well, actually, you're looking for housing for them, or to refer them to, or to actually possibly rent a house specifically for lifeguards through the town?
I think the town is taking care of a lot of it, but they're exploring a bunch of different avenues. I just don't think that they've firmed it up yet. As I said, last year worked out perfect because community sailing didn't open.
Mhm.
And so we went into their staff housing. But the big thing that if somebody does want to help us out is I can promise you, I can guarantee you and assure you that the house will be left better than it was found. I do daily inspections. Military type inspections in there, and community sailing can be our reference because they were really pleased with the shape that they found it in when we were done with it. So I promise that the place will be
Mhm.
spotless, immaculate, and there's no alcohol allowed anywhere that they live.
That's amazing. You groom the perfect tenant by the sounds of it. So another kudo to your list of things to do. That's tough to rein in sometimes. So good to hear. Keep us posted on the housing and if any of us hear of anything. It's getting much more difficult
Yes.
for any summer workforce housing, and so we understand that here, and very important to have lifeguards.
Yep.
Anything else for Sheila from the board? Ms. Andrews, Mr. Bossy?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ginger.
Yeah, well, I understand the Monomoy property owner's concerns, but speaking as a former property owner or at least in expectation of Cathcart Road, the property that the land bank owns was bought in 2000 from our family. My grandfather bought it in 1925, so his kids would always have a place to swim because things were similar 100 years ago to the way they are today. And I just feel that that use by the public is very important, and that it's kind of the land bank's job to police some of these things. They're certainly well funded by the property tax on transferals, which have been overwhelming. So I hate to see the Marine Department having that added to their list, when I should think the land bank as a property owner should do some of the policing, and should also be concerned about providing access for the dinghies and particularly the kayaks, because you can't solve the kayak problem by adding more cars. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. So I hope that they would step up to the plate a little bit there. Just my thoughts.
Sheila, I imagine you're in coordination with the land bank on those land bank parcels.
Yep. I'm working hand in hand with them. They take care of theirs. We take care of ours. We empty our racks on October 15th. They empty theirs at the same time. And I met with Eric Svetsky. I'm also working with Jeff Pollock, and we're coming up with the places to look for more storage spaces, both on town and land bank property. But pretty much they do the Cathcart one and we do the Berkeley Ave one, is how that ends up unfolding.
I see. All right.
Through you,
Well,
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Sheila. That's good to hear.
Thank you. I did forget to tell you one thing. The boat up at Quay's has been removed,
yes.
and that was paid for by the property owner, and he is going to go through civil court to get to the vessel owner, but we are out of it.
Wow. Huge. That's great news. So hopefully the fishermen that are looking at it while they're out there fishing have a cleaner sight to look at, I guess. So But no, it's good that that's finally gone. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
And with all due respect, Ginger, I agree that adding cars for to kayaks does not make sense. So hopefully, it just sounds to me like there's a balancing act there that that has to be resolved in some way. There's more demand on everything, and certainly kayak is going to be, one of the healthiest, and the paddle boarding as well, as far as the social distancing goes, and so. I wish Sheila and the land bank well with resolving that balancing act.
Well, you got to take a look at it when you look at your regulations next week. So,
Yeah.
or 2 weeks, whenever you do it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments on Marine Department report, board members?
Yeah.
Mr. Brace?
Yeah, I just want to thank Sheila for her hard work on getting that together and getting it to us, and all the background work that went on getting this before the select board. Thanks. And,
Thank you.
and thanks for the work on the boat too.
Thank you.
Wonderful. If there's nothing else for Marine Department report, we'll move forward with natural resources.
Andy,
Yes.
I still got we're still working. Can I go back, or do you need me for something later on?
Well, I'm not sure. The only thing that maybe is the FDA shellfish taking prohibition mooring fields. If there's nothing for you to add to that, I believe that's Leah. But no, I don't see anything else. Board members, is that okay if Sheila departs the meeting?
Sure.
Anything
I would
else?
say so.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Natural resources.
Hi,
Leah.
everyone. Good evening.
Hi.
All right. So as far as scallop season goes, on good weather days, there's about 8 to 10 boats going. If it's a bad weather day, around 2 to 6, and some are getting their limits, some are not. We'll have an updated catch report closer to the end of March, because all of those catch reports have to come into the office before the scallopers can renew their licenses. As far as scallop renewals, our office is still closed due to COVID, but we're having applications dropped off in the mailbox right outside our front door. And if someone needs assistance, they can schedule an appointment. Renewal letters were sent in late January/early February to all current Bay Scallop license holders to help the renewal process. For fertilizer program, we're looking into having a training program available online with a unique link or sign in to ensure that people are actually watching it. And we'll be starting compliance checks in the next couple of weeks, as April 15th is the date that commercial applicators may start applying fertilizer. We're hopeful that the Fertilizer Advisory Committee for the Board of Health can meet again soon. They've been working on some regulatory updates to the current Board of Health fertilizer regulations, and they would have to be reviewed and endorsed by NP and EDC before a hearing can occur at the Board of Health. The Article 68 BMP is still in full effect, and any commercial landscaper wishing to apply fertilizer is required to be licensed. And Jeff will provide a draft of the proposed regulations once they are available. For pond openings, Sacajah is scheduled towards the end of March as required by our Army Corps permit, and Hummock will be in early April. The exact dates haven't been totally set yet. Thais will be going out 7 days before each opening and then 7 days after each opening in order to take water quality samples to glean information how the opening went. Let's see. For the hatchery portion of our update, we have interviewed a bunch of candidates for our seasonal positions and offered it to 3 people. And like Sheila, they need housing as well. They need it for a longer period of time. So like mid to late May through October. And we need to find housing for, or help find housing for 3 of our technicians.
Are they interns, Leah? Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, they're seasonal technicians, so we kind of
Okay.
use seasonal technicians / interns interchangeably. I prefer technicians because they are paid, so
Okay.
yeah. And unfortunately, our department, we don't have housing available for them, and we also don't compensate for housing, so it's kind of on us to help them find affordable housing, and also on them to kind of hopefully have some sort of connection to the island and a lead. But we
Did you
try to
say
help.
they've been selected already, the 3?
Yep, we offered them the position yesterday, and so we gave them a deadline to tell us tomorrow if they accept it or not. And if for whatever reason some of them don't accept, we have some backups too. So we had a lot of good candidates this year.
Some housing is dedicated, male or female. Are you willing to share what the current text may be as far as male or females? I know some people will only rent to a household with females.
Oh, yeah. So let's see, we offered 1 position to a male and then 2 positions to females.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Maybe, maybe these interns could somehow be connected to the ones that are going to be for Mass Audubon. And I know Sam is looking for housing for them. Maybe they could all team up and get a house or something.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll have to reach out to Sam.
And maybe there are field interns with NCF as well. If everybody got together, there might be a way that they could all pool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, any leads are much appreciated. So let's see, on this Thursday at 4, Tara is going to be presenting or chatting on the Nantucket Land Council's water topics. And that's going to have a board of Simon Edwards, Melanie Kodalak, and Josh Eldridge. So tune in at 4. I think it'll be on NCTV and probably on Zoom. I know all the information's on the Land Council's website and their social media. Let's see, next week we are attending the National Shellfish Association Conference, which is all week, all day. Tara was supposed to go to that last year, but because of COVID, it got canceled. So now they're having it this year online. We'll be attending that. And we have set 5 million bay scallops in the hatchery so far. And we have an oyster spawn scheduled for next Wednesday. So that'll be our first oyster spawn. And the oysters that we're producing this year will be going to Jen Carberg's project in Medowie Creek. So we're going to be using a different setting technique instead of usually we do shell bags. So we will be incorporating shell bags, but also a majority of the oysters will be set on oyster castles. I think she presented to you guys a couple weeks ago, but they're just like basically concrete Legos. So we're going to be trying that out. We've never done it before on oyster castles, so it'll kind of be a proof of concept. But hopefully we get some good set rates so she can have oysters at her project. Let's see, Tara is working with NPS with the 8th grade maritime class on doing an algae growth experiment. So I think next week she's going to be giving them some live cultures, and I don't really know what they're testing, but she's working with them. And then Tara and Jeff are both working on an MVP grant application in hopes that it'll fund our fall eelgrass / shellfish habitat surveys. So those are the surveys that we did last fall with some people from Stony Brook, scientists from Stony Brook University. So this fall, we want to do Nantucket and Mattocket Harbor, because last year we only did Nantucket Harbor. So to have 2 years of data collection will be really important as far as management goes. And then we're also working with the Land Council in applying for an eelgrass seed planting grant. There's a couple of different methods, and we're just trying to figure out which methods we're going to try out this summer and where exactly they're going to go in the harbor. And then let's see, on the coastal resiliency front, NRD is planning a planting day on March 24th on the dune by Millie's Bridge. And it's a resiliency project to stabilize the dune and to work to prevent a breach into Hither Creek. So Vince is working with Jen Carberg on that. And I think they were looking to get some volunteers as well to help plant. And then the CRP has a new virtual presentation toolkit and fact sheet. So this takes the form of a meeting in a box that anyone can download from the town website and present to other people, or just learn about CRP for themselves. And Vince gave the website, which is just the town website, and then it says get involved. CRAC has undertaken a series of meetings to get feedback from parts of the community with specific interests or concerns as the CRP develops. And the first of these was in the Mattocket area, and the second was on Tuckernuck and Muskeget Islands. The CRAC chair and coastal resiliency coordinator are investigating if the next in the series of focus meetings could be on Nantucket Harbor. And the focus would be on the harbor east of Coteau Point and Cathcart, looking at a possible harbor meeting in late April. And then if this should go ahead, we would like to invite members of SHAB to participate. And then also looking to include conservation groups, homeowner groups, shellfisher people, hatchery staff, and other interest groups. Vince is asking if SHAB would like to have a specific member or members give a presentation or speak.
Wow. Boy, that's a lot to absorb, Leah.
Yeah, I know. Now that the weather's nicer, we're
Wow.
doing a lot.
The last thing that you mentioned, well, before Vince mentioned the studying between Cathcart and Coteau Point.
Mm-hmm.
Can you repeat what that was
He said,
detailed in?
so he didn't give a lot of details, but he just said that the chair and coastal resiliency coordinator are investigating the next series of focused meetings, could be specifically on Nantucket Harbor, because the ones before were in Mattocket, Tuckernuck, and Muskeget. And they would prefer the focus to be the harbor east of Coteau Point and Cathcart. So I guess, like the town mooring field area from there to town.
Okay. Thank you. So should we be discussing amongst ourselves who's willing to represent and possibly speak on a topic for which event? The end of April?
Yep, so the meeting will be in late April.
All right. Okay, so you can update us, or somebody from your department will update us on that at the next meeting. Make note of that for us, please. Thank you.
Okay, and you guys will decide if you want a member to attend and give.
Yeah. Can it be more than one member if we
Yeah.
have some more interest? Okay, that would be great. because that sounds very interesting. I'd love to be there. But if any other member would like to be there, I'd love that for them to be able to join as well. Board members, any questions, comments, Mr. Brace?
I'd probably attend that since I'm on crack.
And what is, that doesn't sound right. Can you please pronounce that?
Crack.
Yeah.
Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee.
Okay. All right. I did not know that that's
That's the acronym. Yep, we're all on
I
crack.
try to stay off that. Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Good, Peter. Thank you. Please keep me informed. And any other board member with interest. Board members, any other board members, questions, comments for Leah?
I would just like to say thank you. It was an overwhelming report. You guys are busy.
Absolutely. Very, very thorough. So I made a lot of notes here. I hope I can, one thing on Millie's Bridge, I actually was out there the other day and noticed the Jersey barriers that were put there during the breach, and they look a little in disarray. Is that part of the project at all, or?
It's not for the March 24th planting. I don't know if it's part of the project longer down the road. I know that the DPW did put those there, but I can follow up with Vince and see if they're planning on removing them or replacing them.
Resetting them in a better fashion, or where it may be just in case it happens again, that they're better placed and suited for protection. I'm sure
Mr.
that
Chairman?
Ginger, please.
Yeah, in my opinion, they were not seated properly to begin with, because they would have acted to focus the force of the water on the bridge itself, and more of a diamond pattern would have, I thought, been better for collecting the sand and mitigating the wave energy that was aimed at Millie's Bridge. So they could be reset. They're not, I don't think, very effective. And my comment on the planting is that it probably won't do any harm, which I guess is an endorsement of a sort. When is the volunteer day?
March 24th.
Okay.
At
And
what
meet out
time?
there.
I think if anybody is interested in volunteering and planting, Vince is coordinating that whole day. So you can
Okay.
send him an email or call him up, and he can give you more information about, times and if they do need more volunteers.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, and I would imagine that temporary, the Jersey barriers that went in there, hopefully they're just on somebody's radar, that maybe something better can be done there with it. I realize it requires a heavy piece of equipment and some skill to maneuver them around. But as Ginger has said, I agree 100% as far as they're really not going to be effective in any way. So maybe a fire can be lit for somebody to have it on their punch list of things to do. So.
Yeah, I'll relay that information to Vince and see if he has a plan with them.
At least give Rob McNeil a nudge if he has something to do with it. And I would imagine, where it's wetland work, that, emergency purposes is one thing, but it's been there permanently now for a couple of years. So I would imagine Jeff would have a little leverage in speaking with Mr. McNeil about that and coming up with a plan of action.
Yes.
So.
Agreed.
Thank you, Leah. Any other board members, questions, comments, for natural resources, Mr. Brace?
Down under health of the harbor, at your request, Leah, we put the FDA shellfish prohibition in mooring fields taking. Any news on that?
We don't have any updates on that. We're still gathering data to send to the Division of Marine Fisheries. But I believe in April, they will be figuring out the areas that they're going to be closing.
Okay,
So once we get more information, we'll update you guys.
great.
Thank you. I had a question also, Leah, you mentioned the ponds, and I'm just curious, I realized we had a drought last year, and some ponds and vernal pools actually dried up, but I see a lot of them are back to their normal level or close to it. Any issues, and has there been monitoring at Maya Comet Pond for its level? Any what? I haven't been out there in a long time, so don't know if, has it come up in the roads? I haven't heard of any basements being flooded, which there's a couple of people who would probably call me if they were, but Jeff had mentioned that a monitoring well to be able to monitor the height of the pond would be installed at some point. Any progress or any issues with Maya Comet Pond?
Yeah, so like you, I haven't heard any issues about, and I don't think Thais has heard either about flooding basements or flooding the road. She does go out there every couple weeks to monitor. There are a couple wells around Maya Comet that she monitors. And I can ask her for that information if that's something that you're interested in. We can update you at the next meeting. But as you know, the town doesn't open Maya Comet Pond.
Right,
But
right.
she is monitoring the wells.
Well, Jeff did mention that, he did get approval to open it for emergency purposes, which was nice to hear, so that it's done, in a monitored fashion. So, but there was also some talk about dredging and invasive species removal. I don't know if that was the Pond Coalition. Has there been any progress in that type of action?
Not that I know of, but again, I can check with Thais
Okay.
to see if anybody's moving forward with that, if it's the town or the Pond Coalition or.
Okay. All
what
right,
would be-
thanks. I would imagine if there was something that was, coming up, you'd probably know about it now.
Yeah.
And so just curious. If there's nothing else from the board, I'll take any comments from the public on Marine Department or Natural Resources reports, if any. Not seeing or hearing any. I'm going to move forward to old business. We have the Oyster lease permit review. Jeff has kept us well informed. We took our vote at our last meeting. I think it's pretty much, we need to see progress by April 15th. Do you have anything, Leah, from your office to share on that?
Nope, Jeff didn't send me an update
Okay,
about that.
and
so
that's
I think-
fine. Board members, any discussion?
I think we're gonna wait and see. That's
Yeah,
it.
I agree. Okay, anybody from the public? Excess sand and scallops dredging plan. I feel, confident that I've made my point as far as how I feel about sand washing into the harbor. All I can hope is that, at some point in time, whether it takes weeks, months, or years, that at least a pilot project can be test the waters with, so to speak. But certainly we need, a lot more information and studying to go along with it. If anybody else has anything they'd like to add, now would be the time on this topic. Not seeing any. abandoned boats in the harbor. I think Sheila has filled us in on that, but if any board members have anything they'd like to add to that, now would be the time. We can include dinghies in that conversation if you'd like to, or kayaks, as
I
long as
think it's,
it's.
you know, I
Mr.
think
Grace?
it's a great idea that we, you know, have permits for dinghies and have a sticker on them. I recall a conversation that included Carl Sherlin, I don't know, maybe a year ago, and we were talking about dinghies, and he said something about how there used to be like a plaque or something you had on the inside of your dinghy that, you know, if it went missing, that it could be returned. And I think that having I think a permit is a great way to keep a track of them.
Well, I think it was acceptable to paint your name on the inside of it, your name and a phone number. You used to see that a lot back in the 80s, and you know, any type of identification would be helpful. I really think it's a privilege for anybody with a dinghy or a kayak to be able to store them on land bank land or town land. So I think it's only fair to the town employees that deal with this to know whose dinghy it is or whose kayak it is. Every one of them certainly should have a name attached to it somewhere where it's visible, somewhere where it's required. So I'm glad to see that Sheila's on top of that. I mean, occasionally I go down to the end of Berkeley and I see, you know, she mentioned that the racks are emptied by, what is it, October 15th or something like that. Well, there's a lot of dinghies and kayaks down at the end of there, and so they appear to be left there all winter long. And we've had a lot of high tides this January. I don't know how many have taken off on their own, but I think her idea of utilizing the Francis Street Beach a little more, she's calling that kayak beach now, is a good idea. There's some good space there. I certainly don't want to limit people from having a good time, but it seems as though some rhyme or reason needs to be implemented.
Yeah, I just like to suggest that where I lived on a island, New Jersey, we had the same problem, and they just left year after year after year. We finally had to draw the line because they don't wash away. They wash higher and higher and higher during the winter. And we finally had to draw the line and just clear it out every spring, clear it out and start over, because a lot of people left. They just leave them there. Somebody dies, the house sells, whatever. They just got left down there. Nobody knows they're there. And you just have to draw a line and clear it out.
The signs all say that if your boat or dinghy if anything's still there, they'll just throw it away. And I think
and we should, yeah,
go take them and throw them away. And they won't be left very long when people start hearing that they're not going to be there in the spring.
Well, I hate to hear just throw it away, like the police do with bicycles. Maybe they can be brought to a place where they can be auctioned off.
So we did that. I'm sorry, we did that. We would because we were also dealing with registered boats. We had catamarans, things that were long enough to be registered. So we had to deal with them properly. But yes, we advertised in the paper. We advertised they were there. They were going in a dumpster. They were available for free. We put one in a dumpster out of 40 some boats.
Wow.
And somebody came and dug that out. It was useless, but they wanted it for art. Believe it or not, they wanted it for art. So they took it.
Sure.
We took away an empty dumpster. It's incredible.
Wow, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that, Dave. It's amazing how things from other towns, you know, can relate to us as well, and help solve some problems. I like that. Anything else on abandoned boats, dinghies, or kayaks from the board? Not seeing any. Health of the harbors, excessive lawn fertilizer use. I think has given us a good update, online training program. That sounds good. And that they monitor it, that they can make sure they can see who's actually going through the online training program. I like that. You know, what I'd really like is to see it just banned at the border and not come over here at all. But at least if it's a fertilizer that's harming the harbor in any way, or our groundwater, but we'll see how far that can go at some point. I guess it's, we're not allowed to do that. It's a state law. You're allowed to fertilize. So anyhow, discussions, comments on fertilizer use? Not seeing
Mr.
any.
Chairman,
Ginger,
nitrogen
please.
is nitrogen.
Yes.
Nitrogen is nitrogen.
Okay, whether it's organic cow manure or a synthetic blend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are differences in the speed with which it perks, but basically nitrogen is nitrogen.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for that. Back to lawns of shame, Ginger. I mean, I can smell it already. I mean, Leah mentioned the day that fertilizing can begin, and I can just imagine the next night being a still, maybe kind of damp, foggy night, and the smell of fertilizer just it hovers around neighborhoods that get fertilized heavily, and it's kind of an eerie feeling. You step outside for a breath of fresh air, and you taste fertilizer in the air. So anyhow,
It's the neighborhood you moved into, Andy.
What's that?
So it's the neighborhood that moved into around you.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And there's more to it than just the fertilizer, that's for sure. But that's for a later story. If there's nothing else on fertilizer use, FDA shellfish taking prohibition in mooring fields. Mr. Brace, we had this on here. Did we just discuss this with Leah?
Yeah, Leah just said she'll have a report for us later. They're still gathering the information.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else from the board on that, we have nothing in new business tonight. I'd like to announce again that election nomination papers are available. And I forget what the deadline is, Mr. Brace, April 27th, maybe.
People could start pulling papers on the 15th, which was what, Monday?
Yesterday.
And April 27th is the deadline.
So
I wrote the letter to go in the Inky and sent that in today. So hopefully they'll have it in Thursday's paper.
Oh, great.
So,
Great. All right. Kind of the same as before, encouraging people
same as
to.
before, but also mentioning that, you know, we've got 2 more meetings now between now and the deadline, the 27th. Also mentioning that, you know, we're on Zoom and people can watch those meetings, and also giving people the YouTube link so that they can go back and watch whatever meetings they want, so that they can all get a sense of what it's about.
Wonderful.
But yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Thank you for doing that, Peter. I really appreciate that. As does the board, I'm sure. All right. Mr. Bossy, thank you. Recap, any items anybody, board members would like to discuss at our next meeting? Not seeing or hearing any. I would like to just remind that our next meeting is April 6th, and there's 3 weeks between now and our next meeting, not the normal 2. So if you're thinking of going off island or have some family things to do, I always look at these 3-week periods as a bonus week between meetings. I'm sure the rest of you do as well. If there's nothing else to discuss tonight. Yes, Mr. Bossy?
I was just gonna say, I'm at the point where I can't wait to get back on island, so that's okay.
Yes, yes. You're not with us right now.
No, I'm in a warm spot. I'll be
All
back.
right, well, that's good to hear, but I'm so glad you're able to join us remotely. That's
Oh, yeah.
one of,
Where are you that you don't want us to see you? You didn't put your camera on today.
Yeah.
I know, I haven't wanted to do that. No,
This is a new thing with you.
well, it's the last 6 weeks in Florida, and now we're on St. Simon's Island.
That's
Uh,
terrible.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
But I'll
all
be,
right. Oh,
we're heading home
happy
slowly.
for you.
We'll be there in another 10 days. We'll be home.
All right, happy for you. Enjoy. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Brace has made a motion to adjourn the meeting. Ms. Andrews says second the motion. All in favor, Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Sidowski.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all tonight for joining. Have a
See you in
good
3
3
weeks.
weeks.
Yep.
Take care.